Today is Tuesday, November 19, 2024, and the time is 5 p.m. I would like to call to order the ISD 191 Board of Education's Policy Review Committee meeting. Welcome to our audiences. Tonight, we will begin with policies with changes, Policy 610, field trips, and starting us off is Dr. Chris Belmont, Assistant Superintendent.
All right, thank you, Director Mersal, Director Alt. Policy 610, it's somewhat unique in the fact that the School Board Association doesn't give a ton of guidance, really leaves it up to localities, and then there's quite a, each local school district kind of operates field trips a little differently through policy. There were a few different reference changes from the School Board Association, but the bulk of the proposed changes is just attempting to clarify and match to process around extended trips. So there's really kind of three versions of extended field trips. The one that kind of is most unique and differentiated is Roman numeral 2C extended trips, letter D, international extended trips where students may be missing more than 3 days of school. So it just dives into that process and clarifies it a little better, in our opinion, than the previous policy. So, trying to match procedure to policy a little tighter. I'm curious your feedback, if there's any things that I think will be more helpful. We do have some process goals too in our office, just now that we seem to have more coherence with process with our athletic director, our activities director, associate principal, as well as coaches. We're just trying to educate and get us more on the same page, trying to be proactive and aligned. We even have a few other, after the policy is changed, we'd like to even look at presenting everything in letter D at the same time. So if there's 3 field trips that match that, doing it in one board meeting as much as possible to help with the flow and communication.
Thank you, Dr. Belmont. Any questions or comments, Dr. Alt?
Dr. Belmont, I think you and Sarah already had talked about the maybe missing. Yep, okay.
Thank you, yes.
Yeah, no problem.
D.
Oh, and another Roman numeral 2D, 3B, and 3G. Forward the request for preliminary approval, ... prior to communicating with parents and students to the superintendent as opposed to by the superintendent. At least when I looked at it, it said by as opposed to to.
Trying to read it in my mind here. Forward the request for preliminary approval prior to communicating. Yeah.
To.
So I don't know the language. Forward. You think it would be forward to? Yeah.
Like, I think later on it's review by, but then if it's a forward, it would be forward to.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, we'll make the change to 3B and 3G.
G.
Same thing.
Yep. And then in terms of practice and policy, the final approval of international trips is with the board currently, is it not?
Yes.
Okay. So
Is that?
I think
Superintendent School Board.
yeah. And the recommendation is to have the superintendent be the final approval in the process. And given that this is current practice, that the board does approve, does do the final approval of international field trips, I would prefer to keep it that way because it is current practice, and I think in terms of our students going international, it gives the field trips a little more weight. In addition, it also happens to be aligned with the MSBA model policy, and I think in this case, that alignment makes sense.
So just to clarify, because I think,
Under final approval,
Is
that's
the
what you're
cur-
referring to?
I'll have to double check, I don't have our current, I thought our current process is that, like, for example, the band came forward with preliminary approval. Do they return? Is that,
There's a final approval, yeah, it's because
We should just
it's
be
in, if they're not, they should be, because it's in policy that the board does the final approval. The way it's currently written.
I'm trying to, I've got our current one up here.
Yeah, it says, if you look at 610-2, it says International Travel School Board. That's what we're referring to. Yeah?
Yeah.
But it was a strike through.
And maybe, just in the editing process, that got lost, but I'd like to keep it with the school board doing that final approval.
Yep, I agree.
But I like the idea, and I like the idea of having them all come forward at the same time. Saves the staff, the building staff from having to come to,
So it's 180 for preliminary, then 60 days they would come back
yep.
to the board. So 2 months they would have to come back for final approval. That's what you're asking.
Can I do some more research and bring it back? Because I just want to make sure, checking our regulations, that that's what we have before. For
Well,
some
it's in policy. If they're not, they should
Yeah.
be.
Because it's on red, that's what I understand, the red, you see where I'm looking at 610-2?
Yeah, you're right, it's-
Was that previous?
International Travel
Yeah.
School Board, 120 days in advance.
Yep, that's the one she's asking to come
So
back.
that's when we should just have match up.
You're right.
And that, the international travel, yeah, I mean, it's,
Okay.
leave the school board
So
where it
Comes
is.
back in two,
Yeah.
it comes back in 2 months.
So you'd like the people that are doing the field trips to present on 2 different meetings?
Well, I think if they're,
That's not what we've been doing.
if it's already come forward for the first approval, I think they always did come back twice. I mean, COVID kind of interrupted things, but
Yeah, I can't remember.
I know you.
Okay, yep, I got it. Anything else?
I think that was it.
All right, so I think this
Okay.
one is gonna take some looking into and stuff.
I think I left it.
And I agree with the points. I kind of was a little bit confused on those points too, so thank you, Director
Yeah.
Alt, for some content in that. This one is going to go on first reading once it gets looked into.
Sounds good.
All right, and then we're going to move on to 413, harassment and violence, and this one is presented by Stacy Sovine, Executive Director of Administrative Services.
Good evening. Bringing for you changes for 413. Following the MSBA recommendations, they did do some edits for consistency. Also, according to legislation, they added to the definition for familial status. And I will not say that again, but those are the changes that they are recommending, and I have no other changes to bring with those.
Thank you, Stacy. Any comments? All right. I didn't have any too. We'll put 413 on first reading as well. All right, next is 709, student transportation safety policy, and we're staying with Stacy Sovine.
Okay. Again, also bringing forward the MSBA recommendations as far as the changes. They are making an addition for e-bikes to required training, and that is also in response to recent legislation.
Thank you, Stacy. Any comments, questions?
I do think there are a lot of kids that are under 15 that are riding e-bikes, but that's just another thing.
All right, well, now we have it in policy that.
That's right. That reflects the
doing
law. It's just folks know, I don't think the 15-year-old or less than 15-year-olds should be on e-bikes.
I agree. All right, 709, let's put it on first reading as well, Sarah. Thank you. 806, emergency operations policy, again presented by Stacy Sovine.
Again, also bringing forward the MSBA recommendations. They do have a minor edit around the commissioner, just eliminating of the Department of Education, and then also adding cross-references into the legal updates.
Thank you,
That's it.
Stacy.
Yep.
Any questions or comments?
Yes, I had a couple. It's just interesting that they would reduce the commissioner's title. That's adequate?
I think it's because they have some reorganization. Is that why they?
Oh, I have no idea why they did it. It's just,
Oh, so it might be,
Children, yeah, I think so.
okay.
I know.
And has 191 conducted active shooter drills?
Okay, the law changed, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll let you answer, Stacy.
we have not done this that I'm aware of for some time. We do other drills. We'll do, pardon me?
Chris
So-
was, Dr. Belmont was nodding
Yeah.
his head.
We
So-
do lockdown drills twice per
That's what I was
year,
gonna say,
and
but not-
They technically, it could be argued they meet the definition. We don't call them active
Shooter drills.
We simulate.
Right.
Okay,
We do the components, but we don't call it out as an active shooter drill because it,
Traumatizing.
yes.
got it.
Traumatizing.
Okay. I guess, just something to think about, not anything in policy per se, but there is language in the policy that suggests that the board consider the impact of these kinds of drills. And not necessarily as a trigger mechanism for a conversation with the board, but just something for us to think about moving forward that, having a work session to talk about it, I think would honor what we're doing in trying to reduce trauma and also keep us thinking about that as well. And Roman numeral, yeah, were you saying something, Stacy? No. Roman numeral 5, procedures included in this policy, page 80611. It mentions adopted procedures that exist as an addendum to this policy. Where would we find that?
I think when you have your closed sessions, some of the stuff I wouldn't, that'd be like our SRP, the different stuff that Mr. Sellers presents as far as our emergency planning.
Got it.
If anything, I would recommend, then I didn't realize that MSBA put that in there, I would remove that as an
Contact
appendix.
them.
Because that is something that the board does consider and discuss, but usually that's in
Yeah.
closed session.
So maybe check back with MSBA as to why they added that in. And, I mean, definitely after talking with them, the recommendation is to remove it, then we should remove it.
Okay.
And that's all that I have.
Thank you. I did not have anything, so we'll say that this one is going to have some check-in to do.
Return next month.
Yeah, I don't know what I want to put on it now. I had it on consent originally since there was just some minor changes, but I guess once we hear back from MSBA, we can decide what we want to do with it, so. All right, we're going to move on to policy 202, school board officers, and this one will be presented by Dr. Teresa Battle, superintendent.
So this was brought forward for PRC C, review to better align with MSBA language with state and also state statute language for the January annual organization meeting. So administration put forward to strike through 3, the first line, strike through second Thursday in January and replace with first Monday in January. And then Director Mersal, you requested the last sentence be added.
Yes.
So, I don't know if you, go ahead.
Yep. So that last line is, our board meets on Thursdays. So we just wanted to clarify that, that this meeting in particular will be held on the first Thursday following the first Monday in January. And I want to thank Director Alt for helping out with the, coming up with this sentence here to kind of meet both the state statute and what our meetings are for 191. Yeah, so any
And then under legal references, the updated, added that Minnesota statute, Boards of Independent School Districts. 123B.09.
Thank you, Dr. Battle. Any additional thoughts? No? All right, this one is going to go on first reading.
Okay.
Next policy is policies with no changes. This one is 103, complaints, students, employees, parents, other persons, and this one is going to be presented by Dr. Teresa Battle, Superintendent.
Yes, this was a regular review rotation. No changes. There was a strikeout with punctuation before, right?
Yeah, but no changes.
Yeah, no changes.
All right. Any questions or comments?
Just a question. How does leadership and building admin ensure that all staff are actively aware of the requirements in this policy?
Stacy left. I think it's one of those in the vector training. The complaints 103, when we give that all staff mandatory training.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then we do post, I remember, who to make complaints to.
Yeah.
Specifically if there's a Title IX. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
All right, and I didn't have anything on that one, so 103 will be on consent. All right, I think that was our last policy. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Just to clarify, for the field trips, is that returning to PRC or just getting more clarification and then emailing potentially for first reading in December?
Yep,
Email for,
yep.
okay, got it.
Okay. Well, let me check.